Welcome to the UBC Learning Circle. My name is Crystal Morris. I'm the Aboriginal Education Coordinator. First of all, I'd like to recognize the traditional territory of the Musqueam, for which our downtown office resides here in the beautiful downtown Vancouver. It's raining here in the city today, and I'm smiling. So today, we'd like to welcome the unique initiative. We have two presentations today. So a unique initiative called the Witness Blanket. Inspired by a woven blanket, Master Carver Carey Newman is creating a large-scale art installation from items reclaimed from residential schools, churches, government buildings, and traditional and cultural structures, including friendship centers, band offices, treatment centers, and universities across Canada. When completed, the Witness Blanket will stand as a national monument to recognize the atrocity of the Indian residential school era, honor the children, and symbolize ongoing reconciliation. This is our third in a series of bringing awareness and promotion to the Indian residential school and partnering with the different organizations like the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. And during Truth and Reconciliation Week, I actually stopped by the Witness Blanket booth, and I'm really excited about today's presentation just as a follow-up to TRC Week and what is happening. So I'll leave that piece to the presentation about what's going to be happening across the province. Today, we're joined by Rosie Steinhauer. She is of Cree ancestry from Saddle Lake Cree Nation on her father's side and Scottish ancestry on her mother's side. She was born and raised in the Okanagan Valley. In May of 2007, she completed a Bachelor of Arts degree with a major in political science and a minor in Canadian Studies from Mount Allison University. Rosie has spent the past 5 years working for the BC Association of Aboriginal Friendship Centers in Victoria and greatly values all the experience that she has gained working for the Friendship Center movement. Rosie feels fortunate to be able to be a part of the Witness Blanket Project team and to be a part of the project of this magnitude. She has witnessed the impact of the residential school not just from her own family, but on Aboriginal people across Canada. And she hopes through this project all Canadians can learn more about the true history of residential school era. And I'll just let you explain about Carey. And welcome, Carey. I see that you're actually, not Carey, Carey Newman, Carey and Carey. I am so sorry. We have two Careys today. So welcome to Carey Newman, who is the Master Carver. And I'll let Rosie explain a little bit more about him because I see he's joined us on Adobe Connect. So we have about 20 participants who've signed up on Adobe Connect. I'm not sure. I think we have three different communities. I see 4 different people up there on the video conference, but that's okay. Tusi, we cannot see you, but during the presentation, just so everybody knows that this presentation will be made available. It does have some really big attachments to it, so we will get the logistics around that figured out. And right at this time, I'm actually going to turn the table over to Rosie. So welcome, Rosie, and thank you for coming in from Victoria.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. I'm really happy to be here to represent the project. Carey sends his regrets. He really wishes he could be here today with me, but his little girl isn't feeling well, and so he's staying at home to look after her. As Crystal said, my name is Rosie Steinhauer, and I'm the project coordinator for the Witness Blanket project. Crystal provided a bit of intro on me, but I'll give you a little bit of information about Carey as well. So Carey Newman is the project founder and artist for this project. He's a master carver. He's done a lot of work in the past with both totem poles and a lot of other mediums. He did the spirit pole for the 2008 North American Indigenous Games and also created some really beautiful pieces for the Vancouver Olympics. So he's done a lot of different types of work. He's really talented, and this project is his idea. It was his concept, and so where this project came from, about 2 years ago, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada put out a call for commemorative projects, and those projects could be a national scope, provincial scope, several communities in one region working together or one community. And so Carey's father is a survivor of both the Seashelt Residential School and the St. Mary's Residential School in Mission, BC. And so Carey knew that he wanted to create some kind of commemorative piece to honor not only his father's story, but all survivors' stories, and also to create a legacy piece for his young daughter so that future generations can also have that history, or learn the history about the residential school era. And so the piece that Carey has come up with, the piece that we're creating, we're calling it the Witness Blanket, and it's inspired by the idea of a woven blanket, but instead of a textile piece, it'll be made up of physical pieces from all of the residential school sites across Canada, as well as pieces from buildings that were a part of the residential school era, so church buildings and government buildings, and also buildings that have witnessed healing or seen cultural resiliency moving forward from the residential school era. So friendship centers, treatment centers, band offices. And I'll get into more about why we're incorporating pieces from all of those different types of buildings later, but that's kind of the premise to the project. So we are one of the TRC's national commemorative projects. We are funded through them, and what I'm going to start with is Carey's inspiration statement behind this piece. And so this kind of gives you an idea of his inspiration for the piece, why he wanted to create it, and kind of a bit of the background. So I'll start the slides here.
Just give us one moment. It needs to switch over.
Okay. So, strewn in the wake of the Indian residential schools are an immeasurable number of broken or damaged pieces. These fragmented cultures, crumbling buildings, segments of language, and grains of diminished pride are often connected only by the common experience that created them. Imagine those pieces, symbolic and tangible, woven together in the form of a blanket. A blanket made from pieces of residential schools, churches, government buildings, and cultural structures. A blanket where the story of each piece is as important to its construction as the wooden screws that hold it together. A blanket with the sole purpose of standing an eternal witness to the effects of the Indian residential school era. The system created and run by churches and the Canadian government to take the Indian out of the child. Left alone, these pieces may be forgotten, lost, buried, or worse, be uncomfortable reminders that leave painful impressions on the minds and hearts of those who recognize what they represent. Individually, they are paragraphs of a disappearing narrative. Together, they are strong and formidable, collectively able to recount for future generations the true story of loss, strength, reconciliation, and pride. So the project, I've already kind of talked about what the blanket will look like, what it's inspired by. As Crystal mentioned, the purpose of this project, we hope that the blanket will be a national monument to recognize the atrocity of the Indian residential school era, honor the children who attended those schools, and symbolize ongoing reconciliation. And so in looking at looking at the types of pieces Carey wanted to include in this installation, he initially thought, because it's a monument to the residential school era, he would look at including pieces from residential schools. And he would like a piece, our goal is a piece from every single residential school site in the country. Now the TRC and the Government of Canada have produced a list of recognized schools. This project is not limited to those recognized schools. It's open to any school sites, both residential schools and day schools from across Canada. We'd like a piece from as many or hopefully all of those schools as part of this project. But also looking at the concept of reconciliation, we also wanted to bring in pieces from buildings that were a part of the residential school era. So government buildings, we're hoping for a piece from every provincial legislative building and the federal legislative building. And also churches, so a piece that would represent all of the main denominations who are part of the residential school era. So all of those pieces would become a part of the installation, but beyond that, We're also looking for pieces from buildings that have both witnessed healing moving forward from the residential school era, so treatment centers, friendship centers, band offices, but also traditional and cultural structures that have shown resiliency, cultural resiliency, and have shown that the goal of the residential school era to take the Indian out of the child wasn't accomplished, and that our languages are still being spoken and our cultures and our traditions are still being practiced. So all of those different types of pieces will become a part of the installation. So the next section, I'm going to talk to you, and Carey can provide better detail around this. He's the one actually building the installation, but I can give you a bit of an idea of what the actual physical installation will look like. It can be difficult sometimes to put the concept together. When you hear blanket, you think textile, and then you think, how are these physical pieces actually going to be put onto something like a blanket? So the witness blanket itself will be made up of 10 panels. Each panel will be 3 to 4 feet wide and about 8 feet tall. And each panel will comprise of a variety of sizes of cedar blocks woven together using metal cable. So if you look here, this is Carey building the first panel. And so you can see there's the jig on the side holding the piece together, and then there's the actual panel on the bottom. So the next slide will show the actual blocks, but what they're doing right now is laying the cable over the bottom of the block. So there'll be a block in the bottom, a cable through the middle, and then another block on top holding the cable together. And when it stands upright, if you were to push it, it would actually have a bit of give because it's strung by the cable. So it would be similar to the idea of a blanket. If you were to push a blanket, there would be movement. So this is a close-up of the cable being laid down. So you can see there's the pattern, all of these little blocks with the cable over top. And this gives you the best idea of what one of the panels would look like. So all of these individual blocks of cedar strung together by these cable into one panel, and all of the actual physical pieces we collect will be mounted onto these individual cedar blocks. And depending on what the piece is, the mounting process will be different. Each piece, each type of material will have a different mounting process. And so for some pieces, if it's a bigger piece, it may mean that a whole section of blocks would be left out and the piece would be inserted into that gap. So it really depends what the piece is, how it'll be inserted. But this is one of 10 panels. So when it's done, they'll all be upright, and it'll stretch to about 30 feet in length. And each panel will be attached to the one next to it, so it'll be one long-standing monument. And if you look at it from the front, you'll see all of the individual pieces that are attached to the wooden blocks. But if you were to view it from the back, on the back of each one of those cedar blocks will be a small plaque indicating who had contributed the piece, where the piece is from, if we have any kind of information around dates related to the piece. So you'll be able to walk around the full piece and see a little bit of history from each thing that's mounted. But beyond that, we're also creating a legacy website. So while the physical witness blanket is being created, we're working on a legacy website that'll contain a virtual version of the witness blanket. So you'll be able to go onto the website, click on any one of the physical pieces, and the story of that piece will come up. So every time we collect something for the installation, we try and gather as much information about that piece as possible. So the individual who's contributing the piece will try and gather a little bit of their own story, a little bit of where the piece is from. If they have something that they'd like to share, either a voice recording or by video, we'll capture that as well. And we're also working with a media team in Victoria who's sending their film crew with me when I go to collect pieces. So they're trying to, as often as possible, come with me and actually get footage of the collection process. And later on in the presentation, we'll have a video of my Yukon gathering trip so you can see what it's like. But the end goal for this legacy website, not only will they be able to have access background information and documents, we also would like to build a curriculum around the website so students from across Canada or across the world could access this website, depending on their age level, access age-appropriate curriculum and learn more about specific schools in Canada, specific provinces. It'll be developed in a certain way so that you can access all of that information. So while it would be really powerful to visit the installation in person when it's complete, you would also be able to have a really interactive experience just going to the website. And for people that aren't able to make it in person to see the installation, the website will provide a full view of what the installation looks like. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the actual physical pieces that we're collecting so that people can have an idea of what kind of pieces are being contributed. And so, people from all over Canada, of all faiths, ethnicities, generations, are called upon to participate and contribute their own piece to the installation. We're hoping for as many pieces as possible from as many parts of the country as possible. And so it's a really broad reach, and anyone can participate in the project, and anyone can contribute their own piece to the witness blanket. So as I mentioned before, we're hoping for a piece, at least one piece, if not multiple pieces, from every residential school site in the country, all of the provincial legislative buildings, all of the main church denominations, all a part of the installation. So what I'm going to do now is go through a few slides on the specific types of pieces that we've been collecting, and really the physical types that I'm about to walk through are in no way the only types of pieces we're collecting. Really, it's up to the person who's making the contribution. Carey is very creative in incorporating all kinds of different pieces, but this is just to give people a sense of what's been contributed so far and some of the types of materials that we've been collecting. So the first type of material that we could collect is wood. So the first example, this is a wooden block from the floor of the Newfoundland Colonial Building that was given to us by the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador. So this is a contribution from one of the provincial legislative buildings, and you can see it's an old stone or an old wood floorboard. This next type of wood, this is a wooden fleur-de-lis from the St. Peter and St. Paul Church in Esquimalt, BC, which is just outside of Victoria. While this church did not participate directly in the residential school system or process, they wanted to make an expression of reconciliation and wanted to be a part of the project. And so the congregation came together and determined what they would like to contribute to the installation. And so this is what they've contributed. It's a really beautiful old wooden piece from their actual building. And so you can see a piece like this, there would be a specific mounting process for it. It would probably be laid into some of the panels. So the next type of material that we're collecting is brick. This is a fragment of brick from the St. Mary's Residential School on the Blood Reserve in southern Alberta. I collected this piece. I went down to the Blood Reserve in June and met with a survivor there who had attended St. Mary's, and she took me to the school site to collect this piece. Now, a lot of the gathering trips that I go on, a lot of the school sites aren't there anymore. The physical school buildings aren't there anymore. They've been torn down or burnt down or fallen down. Even if the actual building isn't standing anymore, often when I visit the site, we're still able to find small fragments on the site of the original building. So little pieces of brick, pieces of concrete foundation, pieces of wood that we're still able to collect from the site. And one thing I'll say, and this is really important for us, when we collect pieces from the school sites, we always want to make sure that we're following proper protocol and getting proper permission going into these sites. So I always connect with the local First Nation who is closest to that site ahead of time, to work with the community to go in a good way and to go with community members, or if there's survivors who would like to take me to the site, I'll go with them, and we always go together to collect a piece. I would never go uninvited or go to a spot where we weren't given permission to go, and so we're really careful about making sure we do everything in a good way. So this is another example of brick. You can see this is an actual whole full brick. And so this is a brick that a survivor from the Maryvale Residential School in Saskatchewan had actually kept from the school site and has given to us. And so in this case, the brick is there in its entirety. It was something that was taken off of the school site and kept by the survivor, and she wanted to contribute it to the installation. And in making a contribution to the witness blanket, it's really ensuring that that piece will be preserved, that the history of that piece will be recorded, that the stories related to that piece aren't lost. And so in contributing something to the installation, it's making sure, it's ensuring that it's protected and its story is preserved. And so we're always really, everything that is contributed will be protected and taken care of as part of the installation. So the next piece, or the next type of material we're looking for, are metal, and it's really interesting. A lot of the pieces we collect. This piece I collected at the Battleford Residential School, which is just outside of North Battleford in Saskatchewan. And same thing, I met with 2 survivors from that school. They took me to the site. The school, there's nothing left in terms of a building, but we were able to find several pieces on the ground, and this piece of metal was one of them. And when we picked this up, we didn't actually know what this piece of metal was, but it's amazing what the kind of the memories that individual little pieces can bring up, or that kind of people are still tied to. So when we were at the TRC event in Vancouver, we had a display booth there, and we had one of our panels, and this metal piece was laid on the panel, and people kept asking us what this piece was, and we didn't know. We just knew it was a piece of metal from the school site. We didn't know what it was actually for. And a woman came along, and she was a residential school survivor from somewhere in northern BC, I believe. And she looked at the piece and knew right away. She said, oh, well, that's a flooring bracket, because in the basement of the school that I was in, they had all of these metal poles that kind of ran the length of the room. And at the bottom of each pole, they had these little flooring brackets that held the pole into the ground. And when we were little, we had to be careful running around because the poles were there and those brackets were there. And so she immediately had this physical connection, or this connection to this piece of metal, which until that point had just kind of been an inanimate piece that we'd collected from a school site. And so it's really been powerful seeing that kind of connection to these individual pieces that we have. And so the way this metal piece is laid into the panel, that's one of the ways potentially that a piece could be inserted instead of directly on top of a block. Could be inserted into an empty space. So here's another interesting piece of metal. This is a baking sheet. I was in Alberta 2 weeks ago and was invited to Hobima, to the Ermineskin First Nation, and they have the Ermineskin Residential School there. And one of the survivors met with me. She attended the school as a day scholar, and when she finished school, she went back and worked in the kitchen. And this was one of the trays that they used in the kitchen, and she'd somehow managed to hang on to it. And it's this big, heavy baking sheet. And so that was her contribution to the installation, a baking tray that was used in the school kitchen. So it's a really kind of unique piece. The next type of piece that we are also collecting are pieces of glass. And again, really interesting stories that come in with the pieces. So this glass is from the St. Eugene's Mission Church on the St. Mary's Indian Band, which is near Cranbrook. And they sent a story along with this glass, so we had a bit of history. And I can't remember the exact dates, but the St. Eugene's Mission Church was built in, I think, the 1800s. And for all of the stained glass, they actually imported it from Italy. So it came by boat to Vancouver, and then by horse and cart over the mountains into the Kootenays to the church. And so these are fragments of glass from that window. So a really unique piece. This next piece is a glass block from the Chutla Residential School in Carcross, which is in the Yukon. And when we watch the video a little bit later, you'll actually see me collecting this in person from the survivor that I met at the school site there. This was a glass block that was mounted up between classrooms. It was kind of a glass partition, and it ran the length of the wall. So this is something that he had contributed for us. The next category of pieces would be stone. So on the left, the small piece of foundation, like I was saying, if the school site isn't there anymore, it's often little pieces that we still find on the ground. So there's a lot of foundation. We find a lot of small foundation pieces at the school sites. So the piece on the left is stone foundation from Kildare Hall, which was in Whitehorse up in the Yukon. The piece on the right is also quite unique. It's from the National Archives. So a building that holds a lot of history, and probably a lot of history on the residential school era in Canada. And this is a piece of marble flooring that was pulled directly out of the archives. The next category of pieces that we're collecting for the project are books. And so this first book here, again, a unique piece. This is a prayer book from the St. Jude's Anglican Church in Iqaluit up in Nunavut. So I was lucky enough to be able to travel to Nunavut in June on a gathering trip, and the St. Jude's Anglican Church, they run full services in Inuktitut, and they've also translated all of their prayer books into the syllabic alphabet, which is what the Inuktitut language uses when written. And so they contributed one of their books, again as a gesture of reconciliation and as wanting to be a part of the installation. They've contributed one of their books, so that book will be mounted directly onto the panel. Similar to this is a book called We Were So Far Away, which was published by the Legacy of Hope Foundation, and another contribution from the foundation. And again, this book will be directly mounted onto the panel. The beauty of something like the Legacy website, what we could do is, provide, if you go onto the Legacy, if you're looking at the panel or the installation itself, you would see the book. But on the Legacy website, we could potentially provide content from the book, so another way to access more information from the pieces. The next category is photographs. So it's really common. We've met a lot of people that have original photographs from their time in residential school, and we understand that if you have a photograph and if it's an original item and it's maybe the only photograph you have or only one of a few, you wouldn't want to give up that original photograph. But Carey has developed an amazing method of taking an electronic scan of any original photographs and transferring them directly onto the cedar block. So then that cedar block would be one of the blocks mounted in the panel. And it's a really clear transfer, so it's a really crisp scan. And it would mean that we wouldn't need any kind of originals. All we would need is an electronic copy of the photograph, or an electronic scan, or even a photocopy if it's a really clear, crisp copy. And that can be used in the installation process. So this picture in particular was given to us by the Government of Alberta. This came out of their archives. And this is from the Assumption Residential School in Alberta. This is another picture. This was given to us by a woman from Vancouver Island. Her mother and all of her mother's siblings attended the Kokalitsa Residential School, and she had quite an amazing collection of photographs. And so she's contributed, I believe, 5 or 6 scans of the photographs that she had, and all of those scans will be a part of will be scanned onto blocks and become a part of the installation. So again, a really unique way to use an image without having to use the original image. The next category is documents, and for documents we would use the exact same process that we had used in photographs, in that we would just take a scan of the original document and that scan could be transferred onto the block. And documents are a really unique category because they give you a direct view into sometimes the history around specific individuals or specific schools. So this was given to me when I was up in Inuvik in the Northwest Territories at the end of September. Robert Alexi, who's from Inuvik, he had this letter was a part of his file when he went through the Common Experience Payment process. This letter was a part of the file, and he was able to see it for the first time. He'd never seen it before. And it's correspondence from the Fort McPherson nursing station, which is where his family was, to the principal of the school where he was in Inuvik, specifically asking about his health, and his family had a few concerns. So it's a really interesting direct view into Robert's school process. And so these kind of documents are really unique contributions. This next document is an Indian school diploma, so it's basically a graduation certificate, again from the Kokalitsa Residential School from June of 1938. And again, this is just a scan of the original document, but with technology these days, a scan can produce such an amazing copy of the original that it looks like an original piece. And so again, a really unique kind of story. The next type of materials that we're collecting are textiles. So this piece here was some embroidery that was done by girls at the Edmonton Industrial School in Alberta. And this piece actually was given to us by the granddaughter of the first principal of the Edmonton Industrial School. This tea cloth belonged to that principal. It was embroidered by girls at the school for him, and she'd kept it. He had given it to her mother had given it to her, and she's now contributed it to the installation. And it's a really unique piece, and it's a sample of a textile material. Other people have given us school sweaters or shawls, or it depends, but there's lots of different types of pieces. So this is another really unique textile. These were given to us by the Carver Anglican Church, again up in the Yukon, and they were made by girls who attended the Chutla Residential School in Carver, and the Carver Anglican Church is where all of the students went to church. And so these kneelers were made by girls in the school, but were still being used today in the church in Carver. And so the father there contributed these two kneelers to the installation. So a lot of history around these kind of pieces. And then there's also more personal contributions. So these are really unique. These are from the Blue Quills Residential School in Alberta. And they're merit badges that the woman who gave these pieces to me earned. If you look closely, you can see if you look at the red ones from left to right, the first one is sewing, the second one is cleaning, the third one is cooking, and the fourth one is knitting. And so there's 4 red and 4 green, but they're badges you would have earned, I guess, if you achieved specific levels or specific learning in relation to those four tasks. And so they're merit badges that she had kept from her time in school and has contributed to the installation. So it's a really personal piece, and again with a lot of story behind them. These pieces here, again, were given to us by the same woman who was the granddaughter of the first principal of the Edmonton Industrial School. And these baby moccasins were made for her mother, again by students from the school, because her mother's father was the principal of the school. Her mother and all of her siblings also attended the same residential school because that's where their father was the principal. And so when she was born, girls at the school made these moccasins for her, and she passed them down to her daughter. So the woman who gave them to us, they were her moccasins when she was a baby as well. So again, those kind of stories that translate along, it's really unique. So again, you can kind of see a variety of pieces that we're collecting for the installation, and it's a lot of different types of materials and pieces. Anyone can contribute their own piece. So if you or anyone in your family or community or the organization that you worked with had a piece that you wanted to contribute to the witness blanket, you can connect with us, and we could either collect it from you in person on a gathering trip, or you could send it to us by mail, and our project covers all costs associated with pieces being sent to our office in Victoria. We have accounts with Purolator and with Canada Post, so it's a really easy process for pieces to be sent to us. And we really encourage as much participation as possible. So even if someone had something that they thought might be a fit, I encourage you to connect with us. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation, and talk to us a little bit more about what you have that you think you might want to contribute to the installation. So another way to support the project, and this is a really easy way to support the project, you can help spread the word. So spread the word about our project to all of your networks, to all of your contacts. We're on Facebook under Witness Blanket. We're on Twitter at Witness Blanket, and our website is witnessblanket.ca. And so, everyone's on social media these days. It's really easy to like our Facebook, follow us on Twitter, share the link to our page. And our Facebook and Twitter are interesting because we're always posting updates of pictures of where we are in Canada collecting pieces, pictures of pieces that have just been contributed, so you can kind of follow our progress. And when the Legacy website is complete, the witnessblanket.ca is where you'll be able to access the virtual version of the installation. So another way that you can help support our project is to become a community champion. And so I always really rely on community members to help with the project. I mean, given the scope of the project, it's a national project. We travel all over Canada, and so almost every community that we visit, we don't have any contacts there to start. And so if there's anyone in community that wants to be a part of the project, that wants to help in the coordination process, people who are willing to connect with me ahead of time, maybe provide some suggestions on who the right person would be in their community to connect with, or to spread the word within their own community about the project, or even collect some pieces for us and send, one box by mail of multiple pieces from a community. There are a lot of different ways to help support the project, and we're really grateful for any kind of community support that we receive. So, as I've been kind of mentioning, I've been traveling all over Canada, and there were actually a team of 4 people. So there's Carrie, who's the artist and the project founder. I'm the project coordinator, but we also have an administrative assistant in Victoria, Jennifer, who is kind of our main hub for any kind of initial inquiries that come in. And we also have another project assistant named Merrick Tyler, and he's traveling in the east for us, which is great because Canada is a big country and it's a lot of ground to cover. So my main area of focus, I travel in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, the Yukon, and the Northwest Territories, and Merrick travels on everything east of that. And so I'm guessing that most of the people on the presentation today are from BC, but if anyone else is from the east, Merrick would be the one to connect with. But this will kind of give people an idea of where we've been in the last 7 months to try in collecting pieces. So we were in Montreal in April, Southern Saskatchewan in May, Winnipeg in May, Southern Alberta in June, Iqaluit in June, Ottawa in June, Prince George in July, the Yukon in July, North Battleford, Saskatchewan in July, Vial Hills, Saskatchewan in August, Vancouver for the TRC event in September, Inuvik and Aklavik, which is in the Northwest Territories in September, Northern Alberta in October, Fort George, which is in Northern Quebec in October, and Merrick is currently on day 1 of a 12-day trip through Western Ontario and Southern Manitoba. So as you can see, we've really tried to cover as much ground as possible in collecting pieces and visiting as many residential school sites as possible from across the country to try and ensure that we have a really wide representation of pieces. And every community that we go to, we try and meet with the local First Nation, meet with the local municipal government, meet with the local church groups, and try and gather pieces from all of those different types of organizations, communities, individuals, every community that we go to. So what I'll show next is a video. It's about, I think about 20 minutes, but it's the video from our Yukon gathering trip in July, and it really gives you a sense of what a gathering trip is like. So you'll see, I believe it shows 3 different people, 2 of them were survivors from schools in the Yukon, and one of them is younger, he's a carver, and I was able to connect with all of them in person, and they took me around. You'll see us at various school sites around the Yukon, collecting pieces, visiting the school sites, and also just kind of capturing their own story and their own voice, so you can have an idea of what the process is looking like. And so all of this footage, this is what would be on the Legacy website. This is all of the extra material that you'd be able to access through the website.
Just hold on one second. I'm trying something. Yeah, I don't remember. It's just the.
Ah. So while she's setting that up, I do have a question. So when are you looking to roll out the website?
Well,
or hoping to.
Yeah, so we have until March of 2013 to complete the physical installation.
2014?
2014.
Oh.
2014, yes.
Okay.
To complete the installation. And the grant that we have through the TRC doesn't encompass the Legacy website portion. And so that would be something that we would roll out once the installation is complete. So we'd probably be hoping for probably May or June, something like that, to start the process. And as we gather this information, we can start to build the site. But so there are several factors. One is timing. Until May, we're going to be really busy just actually getting the pieces and building the installation. The second key factor, always a factor, is funding. So again, the TRC funding is to complete the installation, but the legacy website, there's a whole separate aspect to that, especially to cover the cost for the camera crew to come with us. There's so much valuable footage every trip that I go on, but there's a cost associated with bringing those kind of videographers with us, and so it's funding and timing dependent, but we're hoping in the spring we're rolling it out.
That's neat. I know I'm definitely going to be watching.
Yeah, it's really unique to when I'm going on these types of trips and being able to connect with all of these people, but then to see what the media company could do in putting all of the footage together to create little segments like this and kind of tying it all together. It's amazing.
Well, it will be nice too because we do a piece with the 300 first-year medical students, right? And then we run a course in June that it would be helpful to have these pieces together and have a site for them to, in addition to the Aging Residential School Survivors Society, very much like when you click on the books and, you know, resources come up and just different pieces. It sounds exciting. Are we set to go?
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
I don't know if I have to click one more time.
Here we go. Here we go.
Oh no, I passed it.
Here, do you want me to give it a go?
I think it might just take a while to come up.
Did you bring up the play bar? Yeah, it was hiding.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Let's just bring it back down.
That's our first time.
Uncomfortable coming here, and a lot of it would have been memories that were triggered about their experiences here. People were ashamed what happened to them, and they also had the thought that I'm the only one that it happened to, no one else, because it was kept so secret. The abuser kept it secret, the person that was abused kept it secret. But once they started doing these hearings, more people are starting to hear. You heard that your family member went through the same thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of eased the pressure on letting that out.
You're not alone.
So more people are talking about it, and that's good. Because anything that you hold inside will fester and you know, eat away at you. So when you're able to open up with other people that are abused or other people working in that field, it really helps. Yeah. So that's one of the rewarding parts of doing this work. You see people moving ahead a little bit in their life, at least. There was a guy that took care of the sports activities. He was really good with the boys, especially organizing hockey teams and that. And he wasn't an abuser or anything like that. He was. This is one of the few schools that had actually man and wife teams, so they weren't tempted by those kind of no temptation for sexual abuse. You do your schoolwork during the day, do your chores like carrying wood or whatever, and you would play hockey for hours.
Lots of time to practice. Would you play against other teams?
The Whiters leagues, yeah. They used to get frustrated because they couldn't beat the First Nations team. The work that we're doing now, that's what I find is there are a lot of people out there that are having a tough time with their life. There are also a lot of people that are so talented, especially in artwork and carving. Yeah. And some of them are pursuing it, but a lot of them just don't see any way to do much with it, I guess.
This was before residential school, this one here, because they threw their bones in the fire, right? But you find these little spots around this school where people used to come and, like I said, they'd stay connected to.
Yeah.
This is just a creek in the springtime.
Wow.
And just a little creek that comes out here, and The grayling are running, you can go and very easily catch them. Everything, eagles, animals, everything comes and feasts here in the spring. And today, in these times, a lot of people that went to residential school still come here and catch grayling in the springtime. Yeah, they come from different places all over, eh?
Come back to the same spot. Connection.
Let's go up to the school site. They really never took any responsibility at all.
The Baptist Church.
No. And that's an ambition, I suppose, or a goal that hopefully we'll be able to get to, you know, at some time. People that went to this school raised their kids like they were residential school supervisors because they didn't know what else to do. Now we've got a generation that doesn't know. I can look at it and say, that's from my residential school experience, but the next generation can't say that. They have no reference.
They might not know why their parents treat them the way they do.
No, they don't. They don't know why parents drank, why parents lived the life, you know, that some people would call dysfunctional, but yet at the same time, once there's a history known and what people suffered, what they survived, then it should be all given a Medal of Honor by the Prime Minister, for goodness sakes, for having survived that. That's right, and that to me is what now the next generation needs to know. Don't look at the results of someone else's attempts to make us better people, but look at how those people survived it.
The resilience.
And we're still there, and the values that kept our ancestors going, I know where they are now. They're sleeping. They never disappeared. We need to have an education that now is experience. I mean, you know, if it was done right, go in and take somebody's kids away from them and just say, hold it. You make one more move, you're going to jail. Now get back in there and do that. Rip them right out of their friggin' home. And let people feel that, right? Stick them in a foreign country where they can't speak the language, they don't know anybody. And let them feel it, what it's like, right? Give them freaking shit all the time, and they don't even know what for. Not because of anything they did or didn't do, but because they were who they are. Maybe then they'll start to understand what it is that we carry in our hearts. You know, the unfinished business of residential school, right? You know, to me it's like, come on, Canada, where's your pride? Look at what you did to the original people here. As much as in this beautiful valley that we live in, this is like, there's been some horrific shit going on here. And that affects everybody in the Yukon, not just people in this area, but it affects us. But it affects everybody, what happened here to the native people in this country, in this country here in the north, you know, and that's got to be dealt with. We need to get together and do it. So if, what is that going to take, right? And again, for me, I think the first step would be redefining what together is. Yeah. Together doesn't mean some person from Ottawa or someplace else who I don't even know coming and telling me what I got to do. Who is it going to make feel better? Federal government or the church are the only two beneficiaries I can see. Bring down that horrible statistic, you know, in the jail. That's what I want to see. That's my measuring stick. How many kids are in the foster home? Yeah. That's my measuring stick. Not how many do we have at equity pay bureaucrats in our community. That doesn't cut it. How many of our kids are caught up in those systems that we know are killers if they don't get out of them? That's what we need to take care of and address. And now, it's not going to be a 28-day program or, you know, what it's going to be is when we learn to live together again and truly and honestly work towards a healthier generation in the future, all of us collectively, you know, not, but I'm getting tired of the intellectual bureaucratic bullshit that doesn't change anything, except maybe they sleep better at night. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. But I'm tired of the talk. So we're working on it. I've lived here 30 years. And I've lived here intentionally. I never just randomly sort of dropped in here. I say something's got to be done about this horrible legacy that we've inherited here. Something's got to be done. And as long as I'm living here, I'm going to be constantly reminded of that and have it there in front of me to work on. We have something that's very, very special here. We have something that I think the rest of the world's heart may desire soon if it doesn't already. You know, we got something, and that's worth working together to protect and keep. And for the future generations, I know now, it's not going to be a short term. It's going to be a way of life.
Yeah.
And it needs to be, we need to embrace our little kids now in that and raise them up in it, in love, not institutional supervision. And that's what I think now I gotta get healthy myself so that I don't carry the bitterness of my experience, but that I'm able to embrace the little ones with acceptance, kind and caring. You know, when I remember when I was 12 years old, I knew this from residential school experience. I knew 3 things at 12 years old. I was stupid, I was ugly, and I was going to hell. Those 3 things I knew for sure. Nothing else. Everything else was sort of kind of mixed up and confusing, right? 12 years old, I look at my kids now, you know, I raise my kids and I look at the younger generation here, and 12 years old, and it's like, holy cow, it's stupid, ugly, and going to hell. That's what residential school did to me. That's the gift they left me with. That, you know, when do you get a chance to give it back?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't, you know, I'm not consumed by that self-esteem thing now, but I see it still alive and well, and it's not good, eh? I don't ever want any 12-year-old kid to be feeling like that, right? My kids don't know. I don't talk about it. I don't tell them what I was doing when I was 12 years old. You know, it's a horror story. It's not pleasant, you know. You know, for me, it's like those Blazo cans. You know, there's a time where you make the most use out of everything that's available to you, right? And that's what I've done with that residential school. And but that, you know, that's just a practical way of looking at it. The legacy of it needs to be dealt with. That's enough, eh?
Conceptualization of the pole is very different than what it finished, you know, the final pole. And we had, because originally we thought we'd tell the story of residential schools, because, you know, we thought that needed to get out there, we need to educate people. But then we had survivors come by I mean, we had babies upside down, crying, mothers crying, holding dead babies, and it was really heavy. And a lot of survivors would come by and just say, it's not a healing totem then, that's a crying totem. So we scrapped everything and started again. And then we came up with the idea, the concept of reuniting the family, right? Because that essentially what was destroyed through residential schools, dismantled, destroyed. So we wanted the mother on the bottom, because usually on the totem the bottom figure is the strongest. So she's on the bottom, and she represents all the mothers who lost and all the women who were affected by residential schools. And above her are the children, and the children are the ones who were taken away. With all the chips, we burnt all the chips and then placed the ashes in there so that all those children that were taken away and never made it out could return back to their mom. We kind of coined the term river people, and there's a lot of them, and they're all residential school survivors, or second generation. And the very first day that we started carving the pole down there, a whole group of them came up, and they were all drunked up and asked what we were doing, and we told them, and then you could just see it just came over them. Some of them started to cry a little bit, and every chip that came off the pole, we people could sign them, for lost ones or people that had gone through. So each one of them came back the next day sober and signed a chip.
Goala chokote nanjri goala. Netinji Jesus Christ Boji chonin ton. Kotit jienjet kotit sa injet kotit ay kotit sa. Mercy. Great Creator, bless these nice people here and their families. While they're away from home, look after them good and their families. And just take care of them all the time. Thank you, good Creator.
Merci. Finish cheese. And I think that was, for us, the most transformational part of the project, was the process. Because, not only was the family lost through that, residential schools, but the art and the culture. And so there's a lot of talk of revitalization, a lot of effort put into trying to do that. But I think it needs to be done every day, to revitalize art and culture. And that's what we were doing as we were carving, 6 months, every day showing up and just living it. And that's when we realized that, that's really the way to go, to bring everything back. You can't just talk about it. You can't just have a culture camp once every or twice a year. It needs to be every day and practiced, or else it's lost, or else essentially the residential schools did what they set out to do, And that, I think, right now is the biggest struggle for a lot of First Nations, because those effects are still strong.
We all got to live, eh? So we carry on. I feel sad now there's so many older people that never ever did. No resolution, no acknowledgement, no nothing, and they're gone now. They're gone. They carried that their whole lives. I don't want to see people do that if I can help it anymore. Let it go away. But maybe I'll have to be the first.
you ready to go again?
Yes. So we can start talking. Is that the end of your presentation?
No, we've got just a couple more slides.
Okay. So, Stephen, we're going back to slides. We have a couple more slides.
It was always on slides.
Yeah, this is part of the same PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay.
I just stopped the camera for a second while I wobbled around.
Yeah.
People don't get
People don't see that.
I had it at the right height and I turned around. Now it's the wrong height.
Okay, good to go. Right, so yeah, that kind of gives everyone an idea of what a gathering trip is like and how powerful that process is. I feel really lucky to be doing what I'm doing and to be able to be meeting all of the people that I'm meeting in all of these communities. And through this process, I feel like we're capturing really powerful stories, and they'll all be a part of this project, and they'll all be a part of the Witness Blanket. And so that video kind of encapsulates a little bit of what this project is about and the stories that we're hoping to gather. So the very last part of our presentation is just specifically about our BC trip. And so I wanted to just bring this up quickly because if there is anyone watching today that is interested in me coming specifically to your community to meet with you in person, either to collect a piece that you have, or if you'd like me to come and talk to other members in your community, if you think there's a group that'd be interested in hearing more about the project, I'm happy to come in person. So what I'm about to do is go through the dates of where I'll be and when. I've targeted communities that have residential school sites because we're trying to get all those communities to collect pieces, but certainly I'm also really open to stopping at other communities along the way or making small changes to my travel plans if there's a specific individual or a specific community that would really like us to come and visit, if they have a piece they wanted to contribute or wanted a presentation.
We're frozen.
Yeah, I released that.
Oh.
That would be the network. Because our internet connection's fine.
Give us a few moments for the people on video conference. We dropped our connection to our Adobe Connects.
Hi, this is Steve here. It actually looks like everyone was dropped from the Adobe.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Steve.
Itself too. That was weird.
People have to log back in.
I know.
Okay.
As soon as we are up and running, we are good. Sorry, I hit something.
I'm just typing something in there in the chat window for me, Christine.
Okay.
It's reset itself. Because we had a different video up there a minute ago, and now it's reset itself. It came up with your video.
Oh, yeah, I see that there.
Not what we weird. Yeah, it's totally reset itself to before we even started the document I just had there. Frustrating. See?
Please stand by. If I had a commercial, I would insert right here. But I guess I have no connection, so it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Just amazed by your project. I'm just amazed.
Yeah,
On so many levels.
it's a really unique project. I don't think I fully grasped when I started how big it would be and what it would mean, and it's been a really powerful process. I feel really lucky to be a part of it and to be able to have been to the places in Canada that I've been, places I never thought I would be able to visit, and to meet the people that I've been able to meet. And response has been so positive. Everyone seems to be really wanting to be a part of it and engaging in the process. And
So interesting. You know, I'm doing my PhD on multimodal literacy, and my metaphor is Coast Salish blanket, and my idea is to paint, to do paintings, photographs, and incorporate our geographical locations with stories, right? So this I'm totally like, I totally get this whole idea of material, culture, and story, and healing. I'm just amazed.
We're back.
Can't see the
Get back.
Can't see the
Oh. A couple more minutes, Catherine?
yes. Like, I don't know why it's not sharing.
Is his video available yet? It won't be until the end, right?
Like the video that we just played? Well, I think I can confirm with Carrie, but I'm pretty sure that we can share this PowerPoint with anyone that wanted a copy, and
Okay.
so the version with the
I
video.
would love you to come and talk to my class I teach at UBC on health, First Nations health, in the spring. We'll have to talk.
And he can see everything on Adobe. Stephen, are we good for a video conference? What happens is the recording stops until he restores us, so it's best for us to wait for the video conference.
When there's a different slide here, then
Yes, but are you on, oh,
this is one step
okay,
ahead.
she's catching us up. Okay, we are up and running again. Our apologies, a little bit of a technical glitch. So welcome back, everyone. I will let you finish.
Great, okay. So, like I was saying, we'll be going through BC. I'll be traveling through BC from November 18th through to December 5th. So I'll bring down a list of all the communities that I'm hoping to visit. And like I said, if there's anyone that's in one of these communities that would like to connect with me in person, either to contribute their own piece to the witness blanket or just for to have me come and provide another presentation on our project, I'm happy to do so. And even if you're not in one of the listed communities, maybe if you're in a community along the way, I'd be happy to make a little detour and come to visit you as well. So my current schedule, I'll be in Vancouver on Monday the 18th, Kamloops on Tuesday the 19th, Kamloops in the morning, and then Williams Lake in the afternoon on Wednesday the 20th, Williams Lake on Thursday the 21st, Anaheim Lake on Friday the 22nd, Smithers, Morristown, and Terrace on Monday the 25th, Kitimat on Tuesday the 26th, Lac aux Lambs on Wednesday the 27th, Prince Rupert on Thursday the 28th, Prince George on Friday the 29th, Kelowna and other parts of the Okanagan on Monday, December 2nd, Vernon and probably more of the northern Okanagan on Tuesday, December 3rd, Agassiz, Surrey, and Langley on Wednesday, December 4th, then back in Vancouver on Thursday the 5th. So again, this PowerPoint will be made available to anyone that's interested, so these dates would be accessible via the PowerPoint. Also, the last slide will be your contact information, so if anyone just wanted to connect with me and say, this is where I live and are you going to be anywhere close to me, we could also connect in that way.
Are you doing, now somebody said that they thought that you may have gone into some of the schools and did presentations. Is that right? None?
No.
Just community?
Yeah, Carrie might have done one or two school presentations in Victoria.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't done any school presentations.
No, I'm already thinking of people too in these communities.
Yeah. So in addition, that's kind of my main sweep through mainland BC, but we're also hoping to get to Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast within the first 2 weeks of December, and we're hoping to get to Alert Bay, Port Hardy, Port Alberni, Nanaimo, Duncan, and then also Sechelt. So again, if there's anyone in any of these communities, we really encourage you to connect with us if you'd like to contribute a piece or learn more about the project.
We do have a couple comments. Can I catch up to you?
Yeah.
Trish has stated, I've passed on your link and Facebook information to Aboriginal friends and family. Wonderful project. Love the stories. And Carrie has added to your response, we are planning to do school presentations once we have the Legacy site launched.
There
There's
we go.
more comments typing, but I will.
Okay, sure, yeah.
finish.
Well, I mean, this is our last slide. So this is just how to reach us. So our general contact information at the top, our toll-free number, our general info, and then also our mailing address. And so if you wanted to connect specifically with Carrie, there's Carrie's phone number and email. And if you wanted to connect specifically with me, there's my phone number and email. I would say if you had any questions about the project in general, both Carrie and I could answer those. If you have questions specifically about gathering trips, if you have something you'd like to contribute, I would be the one to work with you to coordinate that contribution. And our admin assistant, Jen, would probably also be connecting with you. But I would be the first point of contact for any inquiries in regards to the project.
Okay, so there's a couple more comments. Susan states, thank you for the PowerPoint and PDF. I hope to get the information out to my community here on Haida Gwaii. And Trish is asking, what about Powell River? And Carrie has posted is that the link to the video?
Yes, that looks like that's the link to the video.
Okay, so for the video conference, we will make sure if you send us a email, we will make sure we send you the link. It's kind of a lengthy, we actually had to use the Dropbox to receive that, right? So we'll have to look at how we can,
It's the network.
Is it Adobe? Do we still have video conference?
Yeah, we still have video conference.
We still have video conference, so we're still recording.
Okay, so another thing to add, we have both hard copy and electronic brochures, postcards. So a really easy way to share information about the project is just to email someone an electronic copy of our brochure or postcard. So anyone that would like either the electronic version of that document, or I'm also happy to put together an info package to mail to anyone if they wanted a stack of brochures or a stack of postcards that they could post on their community bulletin board or give out to anyone that they think might be interested. I just encourage you to connect with me, and we can start that process either electronically sharing that information or sending you hard copies. My email's right there. It's just Rosie, ROSY, @witnessblanket.ca, or my phone number. I'm reachable at any time, and so that's kind of the easiest way to connect with us. And again, that BC trip is coming up. We're leaving on Sunday, so it's coming up shortly. So there's, again, anyone in those communities, I'd really encourage you to connect with me. I'd love to be able to meet with you in person. And in terms of the question about Powell River, the exact schedule and dates are still being confirmed for the island trip. So if there was interest in Powell River, certainly we could look at working that community into our schedule. So again, I would encourage you, I would encourage that individual to connect with us, and we can go from there. And that's kind of the end of our project. So at this point, I think we've got a little bit of time for questions. If anyone had any questions about the project or anything else in relation to the witness blanket, I'm happy to answer them at this time.
There was a question,
Yeah.
but I am actually with the technology. We have been having a little bit of problems with Adobe Connect, and it's not on our end. It is on the Adobe Connect side. So there was a question typed on here.
It's gone now.
It's gone. I'm sorry. Somebody typed a question in on Adobe Connect, and just before we had our glitch in the system, I'm going to ask if you could type that question again. I'm sorry. I was just beginning to read it and we lost connection. So our apologies for Adobe Connect, and hopefully by Friday all these glitches will be worked out of their system, which is our host site for the webinar today on computer. And maybe perhaps, Rosie, now that they're up and connected again, could you please just repeat the answer about Powell River and
Yes.
about your scheduling?
Certainly. So our Vancouver Island trip, the first 2 weeks of December, we haven't finalized the dates or the community locations for that trip. So if there was someone in Powell River that was interested in our project team visiting there and either connecting to collect a piece or to provide more information to the community, we'd be happy to work with them to include that community in our gathering process. we're always really flexible. You know, especially we're a Victoria-based project, so Vancouver Island is very reachable for us. But again, if there's any other communities that are on the same kind of path as my big BC trip, I'd be happy to visit those as well if they're not listed in my current list of communities.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so what's interesting, and I was waiting for Carey to come back on, definitely here at the UBC Learning Circle, we would definitely like to have you back as a follow-up when the project rolls out or when the site rolls out, or a number of follow-up sessions, because it is definitely lots of good work, and it's a national story being told. And as I heard an elder state during TRC week, that this isn't just Canadian, or this just isn't First Nations history, this is Canadian history. It is a piece of our country and what's happened across, First Nations community across Canada. So definitely would like to invite you back for, one, a UBC Learning Circle, and two, a youth circle, when that curriculum rolls out, and, make some specific, have targeted groups that we want to participate, and, reach our youth in the communities and in the school system. So with that being said, also what I did want to state, that person, I didn't catch his name on the video, but he made some really good points about, and I heard this during TRC week as well, and from the Indian Residential School Survivors series that we're setting up. So we've been working hard with the First Nations Health Authority and the Indian Residential School Survivors Society to include Corrections Canada in a presentation with the UBC Learning Circle, and it's about incarceration and the effect that trauma has had, not only on the brain, but on the whole being of the person, of Indian Residential School Survivors. So that date is set for January 21st. So I just wanted to mention that in the work that I'm doing, that I have heard those pieces of work that need to happen. So I'm glad that those pieces were brought up again. It just seems to be that all these links begin to happen when you start unraveling the work, and the pieces about practicing culture, that has come up with working with these incarcerated survivors. So and he spoke about the language, and Dr. Gallo, she'll be on in the new year as well, where she is doing language revitalization and speaking on those terms. So I do look forward to having you back, and I'm not sure if there's any question from the video conference. So Stephen, can we cut back to the video conference? And I will read this comment that Carey has typed out. We have been touched by so many stories during this process. I can't say enough how important the stories are to the meaning of this work. Without the video, testimonials, and letters about where these items come from, they would eventually become a random collection of inanimate objects. So I do appreciate the work. It is very touching when you hear the many stories, and I appreciate the good work that and the stories behind how this project came to be and how it is rolling out. It's very interesting work that is being done. So Carey is typing one more comment. I'm not sure if we've lost completely everybody up there, and I'm not sure there's somebody. Is there any? I see their feet again, their knees. Is there any questions on the video conference? Thank you, Rosie, for being absolutely incredible. And Carey, I really, send best wishes your way. I know you wanted to be here, and hopefully your little one will be feeling better today. We do have some more comments, and what I'm going to do is, as those comments are being typed, I'm actually going to do an introduction of Carey Tarnley. We have Carey here in the room. She works as the education coordinator at the Institute for Aboriginal Health at the University of BC, where she has been running the summer science program for Aboriginal youth in Aboriginal Health. And the Aboriginal Health and Community Administration program for the last 5 years. She is a sessional lecturer at UBC, where she teaches fourth-year courses in her interprofessional health and human services on the historical and contemporary issues of First Nations health in Canada and cultural competency in approaching traditional healing modalities in Aboriginal health. Carey is in her 3rd year of doctoral studies, leading to a Doctor of Philosophy degree in education in the area of language and literacy education. Right on, Carey. Her research focus is on Indigenous research methodologies and co-sales connected to the land, place, and transforming ideas of education, learning, and teaching beyond the classroom. And I'll finish with these last comments. Yes, Carey, we look forward to hosting you next time. And Susan says thank you, that the project is awesome. And thanks, Rosie. This was very interesting and more information for her. That was Colleen. So, Carey, if I could just turn it over to you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're going to do a transition here to the second presentation.
Should I move over there maybe? Yeah.
It's not uploading the PowerPoint on the Adobe Connect because of the share.
Oh, alrighty, we're back.
Okay, so, well, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me, Crystal, at the Learning Circle. And I'm just really looking forward to sharing with everyone about our UBC Aboriginal Health and Community Administration program. It's been running as a collaborative program between the Institute for Aboriginal Health at UBC and the Center for Intercultural Communications at the Continuing Studies Department of UBC. So I don't have my PowerPoint on here, so I don't know. So anyway, the Institute for Aboriginal Health is sunsetting actually, but our program is still going to be continuing. We're hoping that there's going to be a new Center for Excellence in Indigenous Health Research in the new year. And the Aboriginal Health and Community Administration program will be part of that too. And I'll be moving over to work with them. So the Aboriginal Health and Community Administration program, we're recruiting students right now for the new year. The deadlines are coming up in the next few weeks. It started back in 2002 with the health transfer process beginning. We staff at the Institute for Aboriginal Health liaised with community organizations and First Nations and had focus groups in BC to ask what would the education needs be for Aboriginal health administrators, managers, and so on. What did people feel that they would like to have education on? And they came up with 5 courses, one on communication and leadership around from an Aboriginal perspective. So we have Andrew Leach teaching that course from the very beginning, and it's a very hands-on course. And then we also have Fundamentals of Health Administration, where we talk about human resource issues and that kind of thing. And then we have Health Policy and Research course. And then we have an Information Management course, which talks about how to protect the privacy of information. And then we finish with an Aboriginal Wellness Systems course, where we talk about how to take care of ourselves as health care workers and how to take care of our communities. and there's various tools that we have available to do that. Okay, so my PowerPoint has come up. So okay, there we go. So to start with, I'll just read off a quote from Dr. Joanne Archibald, who's now the Dean of Indigenous Education at UBC, and she's from Stalo First Nation. I think it's an appropriate quote because the Aboriginal Health and Community Administration program is a blended learning model where students come to Vancouver to UBC campus for 3 days every 2 months to start each course, and then they go home and do the rest of the course online. So it's both face-to-face learning and online learning, and it means that people can take the certificate program at home where they live and work throughout the province. So the quote is, with the technological advances of video, television, and film, our world has become a combined oral, literate, visual one. This combination has exciting possibilities for First Nations because it is nearing the traditional holistic approach to teaching and learning, which is needed to heal our people who have been adversely affected by history, as pointed out in the presentation before mine with the Witness Blanket Project. Okay, so who we are. So as I said before, the ACAB program's a partnership between Institute for Aboriginal Health and UBC Continuing Studies. So it's myself, Carrie Charnley, Education Coordinator at the Institute for Aboriginal Health, and then on the Continuing Studies side is Karen Rolston, who's the Associate Director of the Center for Intercultural Communication, and our frontline person is Madeline Tetrenkale. She's the Senior Program Assistant. And the artwork that we have for our Aboriginal Health and Communication Program, Aboriginal Health and Community Administration Program is Susan Point's house post that's at the Museum of Anthropology. So I'll just briefly go over this purpose of the program, which I mentioned earlier. It was specifically to provide students with skills and knowledge that focuses on the needs of our 273 bands of First Nations and tribal councils, as well as the over 140 health centers, friendship centers, and Aboriginal health service organizations around the province. There's the map. So the program is a blended model of face-to-face and online learning. There's 5 courses. Each course is 8 weeks long. They're all taught by Aboriginal instructors who have personal experience in the areas that they're teaching on. There's an online moderator who coordinates the online portion of the program, and it was offered through WebCT, but we now have a new internet service online program, which is eConnect. Seems like every 2 years they're changing. And we have an 83% completion rate, which is really, really high for any kind of education program. And we say that's largely because it's a program that was, geared towards what people wanted. So it's meeting the needs of the students. It's also a culturally competent program in that the instructors all are Aboriginal and come with the context and the personal and education experience, and also because we have some cultural components in the way that we conduct our course. So the face-to-face component, we start each day with a talking circle, and we end each day with a talking circle and check-in. And we have, if there's any issues that come up for community members that are attending our face-to-face, like there might be an emergency situation back home, we'll do some traditional healing modalities at the class for class community and for the people in the class, like smudging and things, for people to help them. Oops, I don't know how to go back there.
Up is forward, down
Okay.
is backwards.
Okay. Going back. Know where I'm going, but I think I'm going forward. Yep, I am. Okay. See, I'm not a technological person
Going ahead?
whatsoever. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
You just go over there. You can go right to the slide table.
See this guy?
Oh, okay.
Now you're at the beginning, so just hit the down arrow a couple times until you're at the slide you want.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh no, it's done it again.
Which slide are you looking for?
Just trying to get one slide back. It's going forward again, no matter what I do. Okay. Okay, so we have the 5 courses. Okay, so this is each year we have some things that are a little bit different. So one year we had for the Fundamentals of Health Administration, the 2nd course, we invited a panel of Aboriginal health administrators to come and talk. So we had Mike DeGagne, who we were really lucky to have, who flew all the way out here from Ottawa because he was the Chief Executive Officer of the Aboriginal Healing Foundation, and had some really, really interesting things to say about his experiences over the years working for different political organizations in Ottawa, and I think he had many seeds of advice to give to the students. One is, how we're told to nurture those who were supervising, but he had a reverse suggestion, and that was to nurture the people that are above you. And I thought that was very key. And Linda Day was also on the panel. She's been in key administration positions at different Aboriginal organizations in Vancouver and with Vancouver Coastal Health. Rosalie Tizia has been very politically active over the years, all the way from the 70s. And David Isaac, at the time, was an administrator for Vancouver Native Health Society. And these are our instructors for one of our years, 2010, for course 3, which was the Health Policy and Research. Lucy Barney, who's a nurse and leads a lot of the Aboriginal doula programming and research out of Children's and Women's Hospital in Vancouver. And Dorina Peters, who's been working with the First Nations Health Authority. The program combines online learning and the oral tradition in that some student learners connect online through dial-up. Rural infrastructure affects others' connections. Learning materials are provided in hard copy as in the face-to-face residency and are available online. So basically how the program works is students come and do the workshop face-to-face component at UBC and then go online. And each week they have an assignment due on Sunday by midnight. And all the assignment is a posting based on their response to the readings of the week. And then by Tuesday they need to respond to one of their peers' postings. And then they're graded. And so it's pretty straightforward. It can be very grueling in terms of the reading. And when students apply, we ask them, to think about their work plan for the course and how they're going to schedule it all in. And that's one of our graduating classes. I think that's from 2009. That's one of our first graduating classes in 2004. Are you in there, Crystal?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, Crystal's in there. There she is, right in the middle. So how did you find the program?
It was very interesting, actually. We had the discussion during Gathering Wisdom, and the biggest thing, one of the biggest things that we talked about amongst, I think it was Irene and, let me see, Sherry over there in the red dress.
Okay.
And there was somebody else. The biggest thing that we felt we took away from the program was the networking, because we're all still connected. And as a health director, we know that if we're experiencing the problem here, that somebody else has policy elsewhere or has developed something that we could have a look at and tailor to our needs in our community. So that's one thing that was a bonus for taking this program. And I look at this picture, like I know, can't remember the fellow's name in the back, but he's at one of the treatment centers still.
Wow.
And of course, Irene, they're holding the flowers, second one to the right, she's still a health director. Actually, the third one in from the front, she is going to be her band administrator. She was band administrator, health director.
Right.
So she's going to continue on in band administration as of the end of this month.
Wow.
She's there till November 30th. Sherry is working for Chilliwack School District, the one in the red. Barb Mack, the second one in from the left, she is an Aboriginal patient navigator up at the Williams Lake Hospital.
Wow.
So this is just kind of gives you an idea that we still stay connected. And then Betty on the end, I seen her, but I didn't get to talk to her. I'm assuming she's a health director for her community,
Okay.
but I believe this was a stepping stone for her, and I think she went into nursing after this program.
Okay.
So, and Lauren, definitely Lauren, just right behind my head, you can barely see her.
Right, yeah.
She is actually a health director up in Haida Gwaii.
Right.
So, Glenda is working in education, the lady in the brown. So we do stay connected. I think that was the biggest part of this programming, is that we felt we weren't doing it alone. And I was pretty new into the health director field. I was aware of it from a band administrator perspective and office manager. But the support of this group and how closely we're still connected when we see each other, we have issues, we seem to find each other. So that is a strength of the program.
That's so awesome to
Yes.
hear. Yeah, I hear that from a lot of people, that the networking is the biggest, probably the biggest strength. And that's so great to hear. Wow. And everybody's still doing community work. Okay, so we have some quotes here, just some examples of what people have posted online about the course. So, and we asked some of the alumni to tell us, what would you say to any new students coming in or people thinking about applying for the program? So one of the quotes is, "What an awesome course. When I first started this course, I was terrified. But everyone made me feel so comfortable and welcome. Sometimes I would be thinking a question, and before you knew it, someone answered it. I gleaned a lot of knowledge from my classmates." And I think that's also really key, is that people learn from each other's stories and experiences, because, as Crystal said, people have similar issues that come up in their work. Hearing about their communities, the problems encountered, the solutions applied, and the similarities in values and traditions was very enlightening. Good to read everyone's posts and responses, lots of different interpretations of what was read each week. So lots of things to think about. All put together has given me so much more knowledge, understanding, courage to make changes, and confidence in some of the work I do. One suggestion is, do not feel overwhelmed by the homework load and your regular day-to-day work activities. You have a great team of educators who are very flexible and understanding. As I've learned that the only stupid question you could ask is the one that you did not ask. I will leave on this note. Go, learn, laugh, enjoy, and be proud of yourselves as you have taken the first step of this journey. This journey may feel hard, but the rewards at the end are the best. If you get nothing out of this course, just remember the new friends you have made here at UBC. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully you'll get more than making new friends out of the course. Okay, there's class of 2009. That's we had about 8 students from Treaty 8 at that class. And we had one fellow right in the back there, over kind of the tallest person from Ottawa. I think he was working in tech support for the Aboriginal Healing Foundation. Mm-hmm. So we've had quite an eclectic student body. And there's some classmates from 2010. And I've seen many of these faces around at different events. So we've won 2 Outstanding Excellence Awards from the University Continuing Education Association Award in 2006 for Outstanding Non-Credit Program. The same year we won the Canadian Award, the Canadian Association for University and Continuing Education for Outstanding Non-Credit Program. We've also won an award for our promotional design of our rat card. We've also had babies being born during an ACAB year. Pictures. And I also wanted to mention our summer science program. It's separate from our Aboriginal Health and Community Admin program, but it's in its 25th year. We're having our 25th anniversary celebration on December 2nd. And so if anyone out there wasn't participate in the program in the last 25 years, we'd love to see you at the event, and if you could RSVP me and let me know if you'd like to attend. My contact information will be on the last slide, and if you know of anybody else who might have been at the program, please let them know. And that's the graduation from a couple of years ago of the students. So there's my contact information. So from November to the end of December, this is where I'll be. So my name's Carrie Charnley. My phone number's 604-822-1795. Our website address is www.iah.ubc.ca. We're in the Woodward Instructional Resource Center at UBC. And then I put a couple of links. Oh, I just wanted to show you. Do you think if I click on here, it'll show? Sure, try.
Yeah.
I just want to show you the handbook. Seems to be working. There. Okay.
There we go.
So when you click onto our web page for continuing studies, it goes through step by step. There's the handbook. There's a 20-page handbook on there. There's the application. There we go. There's different things. It tells about the instructions, details and fees, benefits. So the deadline right now is November 15th, which is this Friday, but we're going to be extending it for another couple of weeks because we still have lots of room. We have about 20 we need 20 students to run the program, and I think we have 20 right now, so we could probably have up to 10 more. And so then there's the program handbook that you can just download, and it has all kinds of information in there. And then how to apply. You can apply online. There's an online application form. And so how we evaluate applications, we have, there's a form to fill out. We need people to have grade 12 or equivalent to grade 12. And we also need a little one-page letter of intent from you to explain how taking this program would relate to your career goals, and how you would, and an inkling, of how you would structure your time in order to be able to complete the course. Because we want people to be successful and to have the time to complete the course, and whether people have internet connection too. So the deadline's November 15th, but I think we're going to be extending it to December 6th. So there's still time to apply.
So if we could get the word out, and we need some applications and do some promo.
Yeah.
Like with the last project, let's put the word out.
Yeah, if we could get the word out, that would be great. because I know there's lots of people out there that would like to take this program. It does take a little bit of work to put the application together and get funding okayed and all of that. I know we've had people put in applications one year and maybe they didn't get their funding in time or whatever, but at least their application was in, and then they could work on the funding, and then they came the next year. So, yeah.
The other comment that I wanted to make was about a lot of people kind of wonder if they should put their application in. It actually does fit somebody, the program does fit if you're working full-time or part-time. That's the neat thing about this program is it was able to fit my lifestyle. I think I had a little 3-year-old running around at home and a 12-year-old. So for me to go away from Thursday to Sunday or for that block of time every 6 or 7 weeks to Vancouver.
8 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty accommodating. It was manageable. The support that I received from the the teams and the different modules, the instructor teams was, and like yourself and Sally.
Yeah.
Was very helpful. So, if that is a stumbling block that somebody's thinking about it, speaking from experience, that it was a very accommodating, what am I trying to say?
Format.
Yes, to be a part of and to be successful. I can see why there is a high success rate. So.
Yeah, we try to have a lot of support for people.
To succeed.
Yeah.
So are there any comments? Sorry.
Yeah. Any comments or questions?